Anytime a commission gets involved in weight cutting, they just
Weight cutting presents serious medical risk, and you should not ever attempt this without professional supervision.
While weight cutting can obviously be dangerous, it also is a key to success, especially at the highest levels where every advantage counts. This has led to many commissions to look for ways to curb the practice. This is Andy Foster. He's the executive officer of the California State Athletic Commission, and he's been at the forefront of trying new rules, strategies, and techniques to try to curb extreme weight cutting.
Andy Foster's issues with weight cutting have primarily focused around two issues.
Most important is about health and safety. If they're going to do these cuts, they certainly don't need to do it through a severe dehydration method. Is it fair if the other guy is 157 pounds the next day?
First of all, let's throw out one of these right away. Is it fair? I don't know. Listen, the promotion sets the contract and the commission sanctions it. If you weigh exactly what you said you would weigh on the exact time you said you would weigh it, that's fair. If Andy is simply saying that fighters should have to compete at the exact weight they weigh in, there's an easy solution to this. You have the weigh-in right before the fight.
Now, a lot of people will tell you, same-day weigh-ins is risky for fighters. They say that fighters fighting on any dehydrated state risk severe brain injury. I'll say it has more to do with the promotions. If a fighter misses weight, this gives the promotion 24 hours to make a catch-weight fight or substitute in another opponent to save the card.
The other problem with same-day weigh-ins is that if you're the only state doing it and nobody else is, there's a good chance that all the big title fights are no longer going to come to your state. And we all know those commissions don't want to miss out on those big cards. But the reason why I'm picking on Andy and the California State Athletic Commission in this video is because people like Joe Rogan and others have said they're doing a great job in advocating for fighter safety. He's doing a terrible job. I'm going to show you in this video that even if I was on weight and ready to weigh in at an appropriate weight class, the California State Athletic Commission would still screw it up. Because like all good government officials, California believes the way you mitigate weight cutting issues for a weigh-in is to have more weigh-ins.
Andy Foster's main goal now is to keep people's weight no more than 10% higher than the weight class they're participating in. And that includes on fight night.
Now you're probably asking yourself an obvious question by now. And how is the California State Athletic Commission going to know what my natural weight is throughout the year? This is a physical examination form in California. A lot of information can get put on this form, but one thing is your weight. Whatever weight hits this form, Andy and the California State Athletic Commission are going to assume I weigh for a year because that's how long those things are good for. Not only is that a completely ridiculous way to determine my natural walking weight, but the actions the commissions now are taking based upon that weight are not only ridiculous, they're dangerous to fighters. So let's go ahead and go through a normal day of mine where I track my weight. I'll show you that even if I'm sitting at an appropriate weight to compete at a weight class in California, the commission will still screw it up.
All right, morning weigh-in. Yeah, right around 170 pounds.
So as you can see, your weight's going to fluctuate quite a bit during the day. But the only weight that matters was that first one. When I weighed 170.8 pounds, that's my natural weight. That's what I wake up as, that's what I walk as. Whenever I'm talking to a fighter and I ask him what his weight is, that's the weight I want to know. So what's going to happen when I go into the doctor to get my physical?
So now that we all know I weigh in the morning at 170.8 pounds, that's actually perfect for my weight class. If I want to compete at 155, the maximum walking weight is 170.5. I'm only a couple tenths away from my weight class and I haven't even started training yet. The issue is, no one strips down to their underwear in a doctor's office. That's creepy. I'm gonna be fully fed, fully clothed, and have probably a phone in my pocket. So I'm showing up at 180.4.
Now, because I committed the cardinal sin of not making everybody in the doctor's office uncomfortable by stripping down to my underwear to weigh in, they're either gonna do one of two things. They're either going to put me on a scheduled weigh-in program where I have to weigh in multiple times before my actual fight weigh-in, or what happens most of the time is they don't pay attention to any of this paperwork until the week of the fight. At that point, Andy will look at my physical, he'll freak out, they'll call me up on FaceTime and want me to do a spontaneous weigh-in. Both of these situations are problematic.
There's numerous problems with both of these scenarios. If you put a fighter on a regimented weigh-in schedule to track his weight before the actual weigh-in, what's to make you think that he won't take the same health risk with all the pre-weigh-ins that he does on the actual weigh-in? Anybody with common sense is going to know that a scheduled weigh-in can be manipulated by weight cutting. So all you're doing is taking all the health risks that are associated with one weight cut and you're compounding them by making several weight cuts. And even if they don't put you on a weight monitoring schedule and they just do a spontaneous weigh-in a day or two before the fight, this isn't fair to the fighter either, because it doesn't actually give the commission an indication of what that fighter's natural weight actually is.
Everything the final week has got to be either conducive to holding water or getting rid of water. I want everything getting rid of water, and then after I weigh in, I want everything holding on to that water.
The reason why you see fighters walking around with jugs of water the week before weigh-ins is not because they're underhydrated, we're actually overhydrating them. We want their body getting rid of water as fast as possible for when the weight cut actually comes. When your body gets used to consuming water and expelling it quickly, it also makes the process of losing water weight and then rehydrating very efficient. However, if a California State Athletic Commission official calls you during this time, it's likely going to put your fight in jeopardy. To illustrate the problem with these spontaneous weigh-ins during fight week, I did a second weigh-in after eating lunch. As you can see, I was 176 when I first got on the scale. Then I got on the scale with a quart of water in my hand. Just a quart of water puts my weight up to 180.4 pounds.
So think about that. Even if my weight had dropped significantly by that time and I was waking up at around 162 pounds, the fact is if they do a spontaneous weigh-in right before I'm actually going to do a weight cut, I'm going to show up at over 170, or at least very close to it. And what does that mean? That means Andy Foster of the California State Athletic Commission is likely going to cancel the fight, or they're going to force me to fight at a catch weight.
This process not only makes it extremely hard for a fighter to become ranked in his weight class, which is what he needs to do to get selected into a major organization, but it also costs him thousands of dollars that he's spent on weight management professionals to monitor him and make the process as safe as possible.
What these spur-of-the-moment decisions from Andy and the California State Athletic Commission really do, in my opinion, is discourage fighters that are coming up from using weight management professionals. That takes weight cutting from being risky to dangerous.
But probably the biggest health risk that is now faced by fighters under Andy Foster and the California State Athletic Commission is that if they come in on fight night above that 10% threshold limit, they are now being threatened to be removed from their weight class. While fighters in major organizations like the UFC have pretty much just ignored California's regulations, in-state fighters now run the risk of being dehydrated before they compete.
So for the local fighters that are trapped in California, all this does is put them in a position where they might not be able to rehydrate fully by fight night. This is ridiculous. If you're too afraid to do same-day weigh-ins because of dehydration issues going into fight night, then don't do it when you have 24-hour weigh-ins. It doesn't make any sense. And the crazy thing is, fighters usually do come in weighing higher on fight night than they do for the last month. Even when you have short bouts with dehydration, your body tends to suck up and hold on to water the next day. Also, fighters are usually taking in a little bit more carbohydrates, they're filling their glycogen levels, they're getting ready to compete. Using fight night weigh-ins against a fighter literally just puts their health at risk. And if your primary concern for getting into the weight cutting business was health and safety, you need to get the hell out.
That's all for now. We'll see you next week on Fight Guide.